Hello and welcome. Innovator Capital's first Clean Equity webinar. Thank you to Trammell Crowe and his team at EarthX for inviting us, to National Geographic, and to you, the audience, for tuning in. The format for the next hour is the same as for our annual Clean Equity event, actually. It's a short introduction to Innovator Capital and Clean Equity, followed by presentations and Q&A with senior executives of cutting-edge innovative companies that are each playing a part in addressing some of the world's greatest challenges. So first, a bit about us. Innovator Capital was founded in 2003. We're an investment bank specializing in healthcare and sustainable technology innovation. Our focus has evolved and is now tackling as many of the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals as we can. We founded Clean Equity in 2007, an annual conference held in Monaco and co-hosted with Prince Albert II. We source around 600 technologies every year, and 30 are selected to present. The objectives are to attract early stage funding and accelerate R&D by connecting these technologies with the right partners, such as sovereigns, family office groups, and corporate and strategic investors, all to help optimize impact as rapidly as possible. Bringing all these people together under one roof for 2 days reduced the annual costs, time, and travel for everybody. It's an invitation-only event. Technologies are sourced from around the world, and over 30 countries are represented year on year. I'm the managing director of Innovator Capital, bringing 40 years of multinational investment banking experience on innovation across biotech, healthcare generally, communications, dot-coms, and sustainability. The luck of the Irish enabled me to work over 100 technology IPOs, including some of the great names like Amgen, Genentech, Oracle, Qualcomm, Apple, and Microsoft. Our team also has formidable expertise and track record, both in-house and at the advisory level. At the advisory level, we have a founder of Qualcomm Ventures, a founder of Intel Ventures, a former head of impact investing at the European Investment Fund, and an environmental transfer committee chair for past presidents, both Democrat and Republican, so some exceptional humans. We're collaborative and always happy to work with like-minded people. Impact is absolutely the focus. The capital markets today, however, do not serve sustainable technology innovation well. Transactions are perceived as too risky, too small, and too long-term. For bankers, the fees are just not big enough, and the traditional VC model is too strung out, and interests are not aligned. This is what we call the finance gap. Our aim is to fill that gap and achieve rapid global impact. So that's us. Now the technologies. Each company, as I said, will be represented by a senior executive, followed by Q&A with my colleague Hanna. First up is Objective Acuity. Objective Acuity is a classic example of accelerated impact, a spin-out from the University of Auckland. It assesses eyesight in 60 seconds and is effective even on 1-year-old babies. The current leading technology has a 40% failure rate, which means 40% of children wearing glasses don't need them. 70% of learning difficulties in children are directly related to undiagnosed sight impairment. And the statistics here are similar in adults with accelerated dementia. The accelerated impact point is that OAL has signed joint development agreements in China and India. Both countries have introduced new laws requiring children to have their eyes tested before they go to school. This is going to be a massive benefit to their learning potential. It cannot be done without this technology. And bear in mind that China and India together represent over 30% of the world's children under 5. So, Here we go. That's enough from me. Let's hear from Adam, and the Q&A with Hanna will follow. Thank you very much.
Our vision seeks to prevent vision loss through the early discovery of vision problems in young children all over the world. There are 1 in 4 children with undetected vision loss worldwide. Vision disorders are the most common disabling conditions for children. Amblyopia lazy eye is the most common form of vision loss. We've developed the world's first objective vision screening test for children under the age of 6 based on directly measuring visual acuity. The aim of screening is to identify vision problems such as amblyopia and other vision loss as early as possible. The earlier you identify a vision problem, the more effective is the treatment. Undetected vision problems can restrict academic achievement, harm the development of hand-eye coordination, and lead to a lifelong deterioration in vision. Usually, vision screening is undertaken by general practice pediatricians in the US, eye professionals, national and local screening programs from the government, and charitable foundations. The existing gold standard vision screening test is a subjective visual acuity test requiring a participant to provide a response, and that's very hard in young children, leading to major inaccuracies, including a large amount of false positives and children being referred unnecessarily to eye professionals. There are not enough eye professionals for children also. This leads to a lack of access to vision testing and screening to identify these important vision problems early. The objective acuity test enables a portable, scalable, objective, quick and standardized screening test for young children. It is non-invasive and easy for non-trained professionals to use. Our test is an app on the iPad Pro that shows a cartoon to attract the children's attention and then a proprietary moving pattern to induce a specific involuntary eye movement. Our software records the specific involuntary eye movement the children should make and measures whether they have seen the moving pattern or not. If they fail, the child will be referred to an eye specialist for further testing. Globally, our market is over 800 million children under the age of 6, including 24 million in the US, 96 million in China, and 136 million in India. We are targeting multiple market channels, such as general practice pediatricians, pharmacies, local and national government screening programs, charitable foundations, and also pharmaceutical companies. Through existing partnerships with Eye Hospital Group in China and the Centre for Sight in India, we're developing channels to access a large part of the world's children. We have undertaken several studies to compare our test to visual acuity tests in both adults and children. These visual acuity tests were undertaken by trained eye professionals in the clinic. We're currently undertaking a study of 200 children at the Retina Foundation in Dallas to compare the efficacy of our vision screening test with existing vision screening tests. In the future, we are looking to develop a telehealth application so that we can deliver our objective vision screening test into the home. In addition to this vision screening test, we have a product portfolio including a threshold visual acuity test for non-verbal children and adults that cannot undertake normal visual acuity tests. Our IP includes a family of patents covering the moving pattern that we show as part of the test to induce the specific involuntary eye movement. They are currently in national phase in many countries. In addition, we have trade secrets and know-how around how we track the eye movements in young children and detecting the involuntary eye movement. Our global team includes the founders from the University of Auckland, Dr. Eileen Birch from the Retina Foundation in Dallas, a leading pediatric vision specialist, and experienced commercialization executives. In summary, we've developed the first objective vision screening test directly measuring visual acuity. This improves the accuracy and access to vision screening for children, leading to more vision problems being treated as early as possible.
Thank you very much, Adam, for that presentation. That was wonderful. I'm sure that the audience agrees with me. There's been quite a few questions coming through, so let's just jump straight into it. The first one has to do with market potential. So in terms of where Objective Acuity is going, is this national aims, regional, global? Please expand on this.
Yeah, we've got a global focus. We're really seeking strategic partners to work with us to access different markets. And we're currently, working in, some of the developing countries in terms of China and India with strategic partners there.
Okay, that's interesting. In what way are these partnerships existing, and are you looking to explore similar partnerships across the developing world?
With the existing partnerships, we have we partnered with large eye hospital networks that undertake community vision screening, and these private companies are interested in rolling out our test in both China and India, and we are exploring other opportunities and other channels to market around pharmacy chains directly in the US to general practice pediatricians. And also, of course, partnering with charitable foundations that undertake vision screening, as well as local and national governments.
All right, thank you. The next one is in terms of the competition that is out there. So what sets you apart from other companies in the similar area?
That's a really good question. Thank you. The main point that sets us apart is that our test is objective. The main and doesn't require a response from the child that is verbal. It only requires the child to sit in front of the iPad, and we measure their eye movements. In particular, existing tests out there. The gold standard really to do vision screening is visual acuity charts. And these are very subjective and always ask the child for a verbal response, which is very difficult under the age of 6.
Okay, sounds very interesting. And then finally, obviously, so your technology helps us identify and diagnose, but what happens after that? What treatment is out there?
So after we identify the vision problem in the vision screening test, the child will be referred to eye professionals, optometrists and ophthalmologists. They will do further testing to identify whether there is a specific vision problem. And if there is, typically, glasses or patching an eye or, digital treatments are used these days to solve these vision problems. And sometimes, surgery is required as well in a smaller amount of cases.
Okay. Thank you. I think that is everything for now. Thank you so much for taking part of this. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hanna and Adam. Next up, we have Iceotope. Founded in 2012, Iceotope has a liquid cooling system for data centers and edge of network computing. The technology enables a massive reduction in energy consumption, water consumption, and costs. It fits all standard form factors and is absolutely silent. So fans and air conditioning systems are a thing of the past. Here's David to tell you more.
Hello there. My name is David Craig. I'm Chief Executive with a company called Iceotope, based in the United Kingdom but selling our technologies internationally. We're here solving a problem relating to the cooling of electronics, and importantly also the protection of electronics, which solves very, very significant problems, both for the environment but also for our customers. We call it chassis level liquid cooling. I'll talk more about that in a little while, but it has some really unique advantages over any other technical approach to how we manage the ICT that sits in our data centers and also outside them. There's been a huge explosion in the volume of data that's in our world. We've gone from relatively small numbers in the half and 1 zettabyte levels, and in just the last few years, we've grown that number by 30x, and the projections are it's just going to keep growing. We're going to see ourselves using 5 more times data just in the next 2 or 3 years. Having all that data is a really great thing. It's allowed us to be able to do more stuff. We can interact with applications. We can talk to each other. This COVID experience that we've had globally has been massively aided by our ability to use applications and computers and devices to be able to communicate, to talk to our families, to run businesses. And we're only going to need more of that stuff, particularly as technologies like AI come. But there's a price to pay. On a sustainability level, we're already generating somewhere around 3.5% of global emissions. We're consuming, just in our data centres and our ICT, around 7% of global electricity. And if you add telecoms, that goes over 10%. And those numbers are factored to increase significantly. Some projections suggest that we could be using 20% of global energy. We're also using enormous amounts of water. Enough to hydrate 10% of the world's population is cooling our data centres today. But before we get ourselves entirely upset with the data centre industry, it's worthy of note to recognise the great work that's been done there. As we've moved to the cloud, we've increasingly allowed ourselves to build ever more efficient and larger scale data centres. So those internet giants and the co-location companies that we've moved our enterprise data centres to have built facilities that are 30 to 40% more efficient than we were in our classic enterprise data centres. So it's a great thing, but we're using more and more of it. And those companies are leading the charge. Many of them have already started to sign up to carbon negative commitments, which is only a good thing. But we're hitting a number of challenges. The existing cooling technologies, which consume almost 1/3, and sometimes more depending on the environment, of the energy in the data center, are running out of steam. There's a whole set of new technologies that are coming, like AI, where we're using the Internet of Things, where we're using devices remotely, where we're looking towards things like autonomous vehicles that are just going to drive ever more data and ever more consumption of that electricity. And this creates a whole new space to worry about. So we have the core data centers, and they will grow, and we will need more of them, but we've also got this thing we now call the edge of network. The edge of network is frankly the place where we do some kind of compute, whether it's persistent or not, that sits outside of the core data center. Estimates are that 75% of that will be done outside of cloud data centers. Think about, again, autonomous vehicles, or people who need to be able to have stuff deployed into street furniture, mining companies, oil and gas companies, anybody who needs to do large-scale calculations, who can't rely on cloud-level bandwidth, or where we've simply got some kind of legislative requirement or some data sovereignty requirement that drives us to need to do stuff locally. So we've got this explosion in data, we're using a ton of electricity, we're using a ton of water. What does that have to do with cooling or liquid cooling? Well, using all of that electricity and water is all about managing heat. Electronics generate huge amounts of heat, and we're consuming maybe between 1/3 and half of all of that energy, depending on where we are, just cooling stuff down. Virtually all of that water is just cooling stuff down. So these are really significant challenges, and they're not really adding any value. They're almost like taxes on top of what we do. So having a technology that can remove that burden allows us to begin to grow, perhaps within sustainable limits, but it also allows us to do really efficient things. And uniquely by operating at a chassis level where the electronics are contained in a sealed tinge box, just a simple container really, what that allows us to do is make them impervious to heat, dust and humidity. It means that they can live in roadsides, that they can live up mountains, in planes, trains and automobiles, and in ways that they've never been able to do so before. They can be perfectly silent so that we could have megawatts of compute sitting beside us in our offices and we wouldn't even know it was switched on. So Iceotope technologies uniquely allow us to cool the entire stack. Switches, spinning disks, servers, GPUs, and the whole estate, from hyperscale all the way through to that thing we call the edge, that single server that might be on a lamppost doing something to do with 5G. It allows us to manage that heat, capture that heat, and dissipate it in ways that don't consume all that water, don't consume all that electricity. And importantly about Iceotope, we're not just technologists. We know many people in this industry around liquid cooling. And by and large, what they've done is provide perfectly good solutions, but they are point solutions. We've got a set of technologies that we can apply not just to any use case, but importantly, we really sat down and thought about how do we make this serviceable? How do we work with somebody's supply chain? How do we deliver them not just a technical benefit, but a real cost benefit? How do we give them a roadmap for success in what's a very, very, very conservative industry, in which $1 trillion of investment and 40 years of value engineering have taken place, and where risk really cannot be taken? So we've really solved those problems. I've got a set of slides that's attached here, some of which describe points I've made through this, but also some of them give you a little bit of an overview of some independent analysis of our technology and some of those key benefits. But in summary, we massively reduce the energy consumption. We massively reduce the water consumption. We allow electronics to live in places they've never lived before. We allow new business models to take place. We work with your existing supply chain. We leave you unfettered by proprietary technologies and the risk of dealing with a small company. We absolutely work within all of the key players and the ecosystem that you've already worked inside. We can retrofit and we can help you shape a new technology for the future which becomes even more efficient and effective. Importantly, we allow new data centers to live in locations that they've never lived in before. So if you'd like to help us work with you to find ways, I guess, to not only solve those challenges, but actually find ways to sustainably grow and continue to enjoy the benefits and the blessings that we do of an ever-evolving economy, then we've got a significant solution here in this particular space, and we look forward to talking to you more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. That was wonderful. We do have a few questions that have come through. So the first one that we have is obviously cooling in terms of liquid. Why now? Why is this the perfect time to push this through?
Yeah, good question. There's really 5 things that are driving the adoption of liquid cooling. So one is the chips themselves are getting much hotter. The exponential rise in what we're doing with data and all the things we continue to need to do are just driving ever more processing power. So it's getting hotter and hotter. And we're coming to the end of the ability of air to continue to adapt to do that cooling. So liquids are incredibly more effective than air at cooling those things, and it makes sense to begin the move towards the technology. So it's something that's been oft talked about, but the chips are now getting hotter, and that is driving the adoption of the technology. But there are other factors. People are becoming ever more aware of the energy and the water consumption that relates to cooling our data centers and our telecoms equipment. And those are huge numbers. We're using, large single-digit percentages of the planet's energy and available kind of drinking water, if you like, to be able to cool down our data centers. So if we want more of them, if we want to grow, we have to do so more efficiently. And liquid cooling has substantial advantages on reducing the energy in cooling and the water. They can be, on energy, it depends on the data center. An average one, it could be, 60-70% better in energy in the cooling side. If it's a really super efficient one, maybe 10 or 15%, but you can still achieve significant reductions. Water, frankly, the percentage reductions are in the very high 90s. So, there are significant benefits there.
So then moving forward, obviously, currently different technologies being used. So is the Iceotope technology able to be retrofitted into the current technology that is out there, or do we need to have completely new structures that are being built in?
Yeah, great question. All liquid cooling requires some kind of integration at this point in time. Something has to change because servers have been designed to be air-cooled. Our approach, though, has been very, very much to design our technology and IP, and it's important we license our IP, so we're not selling a physical thing to people. They're not constrained by a single technology vendor. We enable their supply chains and their existing consultants, etc., to be able to adopt the technology. And importantly, that allows you to work both in new build and with existing technology. So, for example, we announced an offering in conjunction with Schneider Electric and Avnet just last year. And that will be deploying pretty much off-the-shelf servers from all of the major tier 1 vendors, and it allows them to be deployed in standard racks with those servers as they're currently designed, retrofitted, and but to be able to deploy to the edge or the data center, wherever they want. So yes, it is possible to do retrofit. There will be some integration work required, but it's relatively trivial. And importantly, one of the things that will come is as the technology becomes more obvious and deeply adopted, liquid-cooled servers are actually much cheaper and simpler. So there will be a shift in time where people start to realise that these simpler servers, these much better carbon footprint servers, these fail less often servers will be the direction that we go in. But it will be a very much a hybrid environment, I'd say, for the next 5-6 years.
Okay, we actually had a question on this as well, so if you would be able to elaborate a little bit more on what will the benefits be, what are they, and can we actually count on them then making a difference going forward?
Yeah, so if you take the benefits, so there are obvious kind of environmental ones. If you're using less energy and less water, it means that we can either not generate those terawatts of electricity, or we can do other things with them, so we can grow sustainably. But those drive to real cost. So if I was to use an example, so this is worked out from real data. So there are expressions that are used in the industry that are ratios for power and water usage efficiency, so PUE and WUE, and we won't explain those here, but they'll be well known. These numbers are not partial PUEs or whatever else. These are real numbers. So we've got some work going looking at reports. Taking, for example, Singapore, an average data center there has a full PUE of around 1.6. The most efficient data centers in the region are probably somewhere around 1.2 to 1.25. We would be somewhere between 1.05, maybe 1.1. So that's a significant energy reduction. And in water, a typical average in the region, again, 1.5, 1.6 WUE, we would be somewhere around 0.08 to 0.1. That's a stunning reduction in water. So those are both environmental and cost benefits. We've done work with Schneider and others that demonstrate that the built cost of a data center could be down by 10 to 15%. And the operational benefits start to be very, very significant also. So there's reduced service costs. There's obviously the reduced cost of electricity and water. You can have significantly reduced land rent costs because you can use a denser building, and so on and so on. So there are significant cost benefits, significant environmental benefits. But I think it's also important that because we can now put compute, Isotope's technology is unique in also protecting the IP. It doesn't just cool it. It creates, by using a sealed chassis, we can put that technology out into the middle of a farmer's field, or up Mont Blanc, or in the office beside you. So silent and sealed really works there, and that massively enables business to start to do things differently. So it becomes a platform for compute happening in the places we need it to happen, and you'll start to see transformative models that come from it. And so it won't really be just a benefit of cost and simplicity. You'll actually have a platform that allows you to define and describe whole new ways of generating revenue in time from it.
All right, great. And I think for the final question then, how do you see this then going forward? Is this a solution to the entire industry? Is it possible to ensure that this goes on the global market, or is this kind of a part-way solution?
So there's an answer in parts. There is a point in time where it is a solution for the whole industry. But we have right now, 40 years of investment in time in an existing technology. And it has some legs. We will still have air cooling in data centers for many, many years, but increasingly more and more of the data center will move towards liquid cooling. So it's going to be a hybrid environment for some time. But these things have a habit of accelerating as people better understand and better adopt them, and fear of failure is removed. As more data come through, more informed choices come. So it's going to be into those 5% to 10%. Still a huge market, by the way. There are several hundreds of billions spent on data centers in the edge a year, so 5-10% is a very large number. So it's going to start there in the next couple of years, and it will start to grow out. So it's going to be a significant growing market. Most people reckon 25-30% compound growth per annum type rates. We're certainly seeing very, very significant growth and interest, which is why we've done Deloitte Fast 50 and EMEA Fast 500 and all of those things recently. But it's coming. It's in its early days. It will hybrid for quite a long time, but in time people will become much, much more willing to adopt and adapt and take the benefits of it. So we're the technology of the future.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, that means our time has run out. So thank you very much.
And thank you. Really grateful for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Hanna. Now to Lightbridge. We believe that in order to achieve net zero, nuclear energy has an essential role. And quite frankly, 5 years ago, before we met Seth, we were not believers. Now we have the benefit of being educated. Lightbridge, based in Virginia, NASDAQ listed, has developed a new nuclear fuel. It works in new and existing reactors. So what's different? Well, firstly, it operates at the temperature of a pizza oven. That's 1,000 degrees centigrade cooler than current nuclear fuels. Secondly, it addresses the proliferation issue and the spent fuel pollution issue. In effect, Lightbridge addresses all the main concerns of the anti-nuclear argument. Supported by both political parties in America and part funded by the Department of Energy for the final development stage, this is a fuel for now. This is not a 30-year wait. Here's Seth to tell you more.
Hello everyone, my name is Seth Grae, and I'm the President and CEO of Lightbridge Corporation, trading on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol LTBR. Lightbridge is a leading nuclear fuel technology company. We are helping solve energy, climate, and security problems, and are doing so soon enough to make a difference. Our groundbreaking next-generation nuclear fuel technology, Lightbridge Fuel, will make both existing and new reactors safer, more proliferation resistant, and more economical. Lightbridge's primary focus is on developing new metallic fuel rods that are even safer and produce more energy than current designs. Upgrading an existing reactor by using Lightbridge Fuel will enable a plant to produce added incremental electricity at a lower cost than any other means of generating baseload electric power. So, what is Lightbridge Fuel? We have invented a game-changing advanced nuclear fuel technology using metallic high-assay low-enriched uranium, or HALEU. This fuel offers the increased power, longer fuel cycles, and improved operating economics that electric utilities desire. Our innovative fuel design is backed by nearly 200 patents worldwide. Lightbridge Fuel can help nuclear utilities generate more electricity from the same power plants. We project that our fuel will allow operating nuclear plants to generate up to 17% more electricity and 30% more power for new plants. Lightbridge fuel can dramatically improve the life cycle economics of nuclear power generation through power upgrades and extending operating cycles from 18 months to 24 months. This means that the plants will be shut down for refueling less frequently. Lightbridge fuel enhances operating safety through improved heat transfer and structural integrity of the metallic fuel rods, as well as reduced operating temperatures. In terms of the economics, we project that Lightbridge fuel will bring about $60 million of benefits per year to a typical nuclear plant. The benefits come from generating and selling more electricity each day, selling electricity when the plant otherwise would have been shut down, since our fuel can provide a longer operating cycle, and by cost savings of not paying for those added refueling outages. Not included in that $60 million are additional savings to the utility from not needing to buy replacement power during an avoided outage, and possibly carbon credits that may become available to reactors in some markets. As things stand today, there are 419 reactors worldwide that could use our fuel, including 94 in the US. Each reactor spends about $50 million per year on fuel. Lightbridge's total addressable market size is about $5 billion in the US and over $20 billion worldwide. Lightbridge wholeheartedly supports the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which emphasize the benefits to the world and to the climate of clean energy. Many experts agree that to meet our growing energy needs and prevent the worst consequences of climate change, we must significantly increase our supply of nuclear energy, which produces power without greenhouse gas emissions. The fact is, we need nuclear energy more than ever to reduce emissions and avert disastrous effects of climate change. The world's electricity demand is growing at a dramatic pace. Today, 85% of global energy is generated by fossil fuels. It is projected that in 2050, total energy use in the world will be the equivalent of about 21,000 large reactors. The only way to provide the added energy while reducing CO2 emissions is for nuclear to significantly increase its share of power generation. With a large expansion in nuclear power, we can meet global energy goals and climate goals. Increasing power is necessary for lifting people out of poverty. With power, people can have adequate health care, education, and a higher standard of living, with a better life. Fortunately, we are seeing increased governmental support for nuclear technologies in the United States. Federal government support for nuclear energy has become a bipartisan issue in American politics, which is helpful for the country's global competitiveness. The importance of winning the global race to develop next-generation nuclear technologies is quickly becoming a U.S. strategic priority. In recognizing competition primarily with China and Russia, the United States has recently begun taking bold measures toward funding, supporting, and fast-tracking development and licensing of these technologies. In April, the federal government issued the Nuclear Fuel Working Group report. It is a groundbreaking report that provides far-reaching recommendations for reviving and expanding domestic nuclear fuel production, including greater commitments toward funding R&D for advanced fuels and high-assay low-enriched uranium, or HALEU, necessary to meet industry needs in the coming decade. Many next-generation nuclear technologies, including Lightbridge fuel, require HALEU. The nuclear power industry is at an inflection point. More large reactors will close. Lightbridge fuel can help the remaining nuclear plants and new ones compete against natural gas and renewables. And the development of new, small modular reactors, which our fuel can make even more economical, opens the door for the next generation of reliable nuclear power. Lightbridge Fuel addresses paramount issues facing the nuclear industry today: safety, non-proliferation, and economics. As demand for clean, zero-emission energy continues to grow worldwide, nuclear power can claim a large share in this expansion. The benefits of Lightbridge Fuel can significantly help address our climate challenges along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth, very much for that presentation. That was wonderful. I'm sure that the entire audience loved hearing more about Lightbridge. We have quite a few questions that are coming through, so let's just jump straight into it. The first one is if you would be able to give us a further idea of the third-party technology validation that you have.
The validation to us is very important, both on the technology and on validating the need in the marketplace for the technology. In terms of validating the technology, the most important validator for us is the U.S. Department of Energy and its national laboratories, particularly Idaho National Laboratory, which is the lead U.S. lab for nuclear energy. Lightbridge recently received the GAIN voucher that I'd mentioned, the Gateway for Advanced Innovation in Nuclear, which is an $845,000 US dollar grant to the project. Well, actually, 3/4 of that is a grant from the Department of Energy, and 1/4 of it is contributed by Lightbridge Engineering Time. So this is great validation. It comes not only with technological validation, but with the government paying 3/4 of the R&D cost. And when DOE gives a grant to a nuclear project, any grant above $500,000, which this one is only for cases that involve truly exceptional technology or innovation. So the DOE has validated the technology as being truly exceptional, which we very much appreciate. In terms of validating the place in the market, there are 4 very large nuclear utilities that advise Lightbridge: Exelon, Duke, Dominion, and Southern Company. Collectively, they have half of the nuclear power generation in the United States. And their advice helps validate and make sure that what we are developing is needed by them, by the industry in the US and around the world. They have 1/8 of the nuclear power generation in the world just in those 4 utilities. So that's also very important to us. So we're feeling very, very good about the technology validation and the need for it in the market.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So the second one that has come through is regarding the intellectual property held by Lightbridge. Is this something as well that you would be able to expand a bit more on from what we heard already in the presentation?
The intellectual property is extremely important to Lightbridge. We go to great lengths to protect it to the greatest extent that we can, principally through patents. Lightbridge's patents are global in all the key markets for nuclear fuel and nuclear reactors. Our patents cover both the design of the nuclear fuel itself as well as the method to manufacture the nuclear fuel. To give you an example of just how extensive the coverage is, in 2019, we added 20 new patents around the world, and already in 2020, 6 key countries have issued patents for the Lightbridge fuel and or manufacturing method.
Very impressive. Moving straight forward then, going into the issue of proliferation. This is obviously, in terms of nuclear fuel, always something to discuss. So in terms of considering international stability and so on, and the role of nuclear energy moving forward, what would you say is the approach that perhaps global and international levels, such as the UN and similar organizations, what would you see going forward will be their approach on nuclear fuel?
What Lightbridge has invented and patented and is commercializing has the strongest nuclear non-proliferation characteristics of any fuel that could be used in the existing reactors or the ones that are being built. In fact, the April 2018 edition of Nuclear Engineering and Design, which is a technical journal affiliated with the European Nuclear Society, stated that the Lightbridge nuclear fuel technology was the only technology they could identify that would make it impossible for a would-be proliferator to make a nuclear bomb. So that is an attribute of our technology we are very proud of. And also, getting back to independent validation, in addition to that and other peer-reviewed articles you could see on the Lightbridge website, Pace Global is a wholly owned subsidiary of Siemens here in the United States. And they also conducted a study and published a report you can see on our website on the proliferation advantages, the non-proliferation advantages of the Lightbridge nuclear fuel technology.
Thank you. That is very reassuring. Continuing on the safety issue then, I'm sure many, as me, watched the Chernobyl miniseries that popped up not too long ago. And obviously with these disasters, nuclear energy has relatively or sometimes a negative connotation when we discuss energy. What would you say in terms of calming those that have some worries regarding issues such as Chernobyl?
First of all, globally, nuclear actually is the safest way to produce energy. Fewer people have died or been injured in relation to nuclear reactors per unit of energy produced than by any means of producing energy, even including solar panels on roofs. When you look at people who fall off when installing them or servicing them, nuclear is a remarkably safe technology. And Chernobyl was a Soviet design that did not have what's called containment, the dome over it to keep anything inside. That's why nobody died or was hurt at 3 Mile Island, and the same in Fukushima, that even having a nuclear accident in those incidents did not hurt or kill anyone. Those were industrial accidents. But safety is the key focus of this industry. It's also a key focus of Lightbridge. And one of the very advanced attributes of our nuclear fuel is rather significantly adding to the safety benefits of nuclear power. What's called a design basis loss of coolant accident, when a reactor loses water or loses flow of water. In that instance, the Lightbridge fuel will not hit the temperature that creates the hydrogen gas that exploded at Fukushima. So this is really as safe a nuclear fuel as one could have for the existing reactors and the new ones. It is just extremely safe, and our fuel, combined with all of the other advances since Fukushima, would make reactors really the safest way to produce energy that there is.
On a final note, I know that the Nuclear Fuel Working Group came out with a report on the 24th of April, and this had bipartisan support in the US. Could you expand a little bit what this means for Lightbridge?
I think it means very good things for Lightbridge. I think we're already benefiting from it. The Nuclear Fuel Working Group report was a whole-of-government effort across the U.S. government, reflecting the bipartisan support for nuclear power, both for clean energy generation, as well as to make sure America competes and wins against China and Russia as competitors in the international marketplace for energy deployment. The follow-up to the report includes already having the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation lifting its prohibition on supporting funding nuclear fuel. So the U.S. funding support for nuclear technologies now goes off our own shores and includes government support for bringing U.S. products, which we expect will include Lightbridge fuel, globally with U.S. funding support. The Nuclear Fuel Working Group has resulted in many bills that have gone through and are going through Congress in a bipartisan way, including support for advanced nuclear fuels like Lightbridge, include the congressional appropriations for the funding like the GAIN voucher funding that Lightbridge is receiving from DOE. So we see the Nuclear Fuel Working Group as creating a strategic roadmap we expect the U.S. government will follow for many years in a bipartisan way, supporting nuclear power and in particular new advanced technologies that will help nuclear power grow.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. So thank you very much. I'm sure I speak for everyone that are tuning in that this was very interesting to listen to. So yeah, without further ado, I'm handing over to Mungo Park.
Thank you, Hanna, and thank you, Seth. Next up, named after the Irish god of thunder, is Taronis Fuels. Also a public company based in Phoenix, Arizona. It has a platform technology for truly cleaner, safer, cheaper, sustainable gases. The first product is called MagnaGas, which replaces acetylene. Acetylene is a highly volatile metal cutting fuel that kills more people and maims more people than any other industrial gas. It also needs 3 billion gallons of non-recoverable water annually just to manufacture it. MagnaGas, on the other hand, needs no water. It requires only waste that otherwise would end up disposed of in landfill. Not only is it cleaner, safer, and cheaper than acetylene, it cuts metal twice as fast. With thousands of customers in the United States, governments around the world are now considering banning the use of acetylene entirely. And this is just one application from a long list of potentials. Scott is here to give you the full story.
Taronis Fuels is a leading producer of hydrogen-based renewable fuel products. Our patented technology enables our team to generate ionized hydrogen synthetic fuels from a wide range of liquids, everything from wastewater to vegetable oil and medical-grade waste ethanol. All we require is that the liquid contains hydrogen, which our technology can convert into an extremely effective fossil fuel substitute product. We're publicly traded, based in Arizona, with a large and growing footprint across much of the U.S., primarily for our metal cutting application, which we call MagnaGas. MagnaGas is a cleaner, safer, and more effective metal cutting solution than anything else in the market. This is a $50 billion market for the U.S. alone, and we're the fastest growing independent competitor in the U.S. today. Our product, our gas, is made using very common waste streams. Hydrogen-rich waste products that are otherwise disposed or exit the economy can now be used to make fossil fuel burn cleaner, or alternatively provide a carbon-free fuel in its own right. When added to the combustion of traditional fossil fuels, we can reduce virtually all emissions by half. As a standalone product, our gas eliminates entirely the carbon emissions from our product. In either application, our technology has a central role to play in the transition to sustainable energy as an additive to carbon fuels and is a sustainable energy source in its own right. Our patented technology involves a submerged plasma arc suspended in a vacuum chamber. We then introduce a liquid feedstock. We then submerge the arc in this liquid, break down the molecular bonds, and let Mother Nature take over. The primary molecular output is ionized hydrogen, which is essentially an energy-enriched fuel that burns at roughly the same temperature as the surface of the sun. Our initial commercial application is for metal cutting. We support a wide range of industries from construction, manufacturing, utility power plants, municipal and government projects, amongst many other end verticals. The global opportunity for our metal cutting fuels is $8 billion. Our next US product in pipeline is a propane replacement, which is well in excess of a $25 billion market. Long term, our technology can be used for industry, for heating, transportation, and even power generation. As our costs to produce continue to come down, our opportunity set will only expand.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Scott. That was wonderful. Before we jump into the questions that we have from the audience, you are dialing in from Ankara. Can you please tell us a little bit more about this?
Sure. So, yes, this trip to Anchor has been a very significant opportunity for our company. We have spent the last 18 months working with key business leaders and government officials here in Turkey to enable us to launch our first international facility for the production of acetylene replacement fuels. And equally exciting, we've gotten plugged in with people from other areas in the government that have been looking at our technology, and now we're talking about helping them with cleaning up coal-fired power plants, cleaning up their liquid natural gas, liquid natural propane powered buses, and getting involved in a whole bunch of other end market applications around our technology. So it's very exciting.
Following up about what you mentioned on coal, there's a question here regarding the impact that Taronis fuels may have in this industry.
So as we go through the sustainable hydrogen-based economy transition, we still have the unpleasant reality that we're going to have to use some of these dirtier old fossil fuel technologies for at least some period of time. The one thing that we can do that almost no one else can is with very little capital investment, and most importantly, we can move quickly. We can actually use our existing technology and create about a 50% improvement in the emissions coming out of a coal-fired power plant. We can dramatically reduce upwards of 50% the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide coming out of the coal-fired power plants. We can also eliminate a lot of the pollutants that make people sick, give people things like respiratory complications, constant eye irritations and such from the burning of fossil fuel. We can make most of that go away and do it in a matter of a few months versus taking years of other solutions.
Wonderful. Once again, connecting to this, we have a few questions regarding additional impacts that Taronis fuels can have. So you mentioned air quality already, water conservation and so on. What else is there that Taronis fuels will help alleviate?
So I think what's next for us is our technology competes head-to-head with the production of acetylene, and that requires an enormous amount of fresh water. So we've been very fortunate to be connected to one of the largest industrial gas operators in the world, and we're now moving forward in a project with them in the desert-based economies throughout the Middle East. We are going to start with a small pilot project in Bahrain in the Persian Gulf. That country does not have any fresh water, so for us to be able to enable them to support industry whilst alleviating freshwater conservation issues is a big deal. And we get that right, and we could potentially be operating with them from Egypt to India in a matter of a few years. So it's a big, exciting opportunity to help with water conservation.
Wonderful, thank you. And lastly, what is then the key proposition of Taronis fuels?
The key driver for sustainability going forward is going to be moving away from carbon-based technologies. Our solution essentially produces a energy-enriched hydrogen, superpowered hydrogen. So what that means is as the economy globally figures out more and more ways to use hydrogen, we're going to be in the conversation virtually every time, because right now we can produce refined ionized hydrogen at cost levels that are extremely cost effective, and we're going to get plugged in with almost every major end use application for hydrogen going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have today. But thank you so much for taking part of this. It was really interesting to learn more about Taronis fuels. So yeah, thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Hanna, and thank you, Scott. Truly a technology with scope to make staggering impact around the world, and a fine place to end our presentations. So thank you, everybody, for your time and attention. Please contact Hanna or me if you'd like more information on anything we've discussed. CleanEquity 2020 will be a virtual event this year, being held on the 22nd and 23rd of October, so please visit our website for more details. Thank you again, and hopefully see you next month. Goodbye.